Good morning, everyone. I hope that you are doing well. Welcome to this new lecture of the Uncensored series. Here on the 1 minute chart of Nasdaq, and as you can see, Nasdaq just traded into this blue line right here at exactly 945, and we then formed a low. If we take a look at the daily chart quickly, what I want you to see is that we traded into this daily BC, and this is my anticipation. I'm anticipating a rejection of the daily BC to then offer some buy side delivery next. This does not mean I'm anticipating higher prices right away for the remainder of this week, but it just means that I'm monitoring this daily BC. What we saw in the lower time frames was the following. We saw the market trade into this level at exactly 945. This big down close candle occurred, and the market then began to show the signatures of a SMR forming. Now, what I will be looking for is I will be looking for a retracement, which I will be able to go long off to then draw towards buy side liquidity. Buy side liquidity resting all the way above the London high right here. Notice how those highs are relatively equal right here. Above those highs, buy side liquidity is resting, and that's the buy side liquidity which I will look to target. Now, since we just expanded towards the upside already, I was not behind the charts just yet, so I missed the ideal entry in this area inside of this inversion to value gap right here. But no worries, why not? Because I know that the high time frame order flow is likely going to change from a sell program into a buy program now. Therefore, I understand that if the market provides some form of retracement, I can look to go long inside of that retracement. What I will be monitoring is this up close candle right here. I want you to pay attention to this candle right here, because this up close candle has to function as support on price if the market is going to continue higher. Therefore, if we see any retracement taking place like this, that's my long, and that's the long I will take in advance of the news, which will take place at 10 a.m. Now, what I want you to see is that at 9:30, we open up, drop lower, form this low, then draw towards the upside to form this high, and then immediately run towards the downside. Why is that run towards the downside so important? Because that run towards the downside takes out the sell side liquidity resting below the previous 30-minute cycle low. Exactly 9:45, we then form the low and begin to see bullish signatures taking place. Now, if the market does not retrace, it means I'm likely going to miss out on this entry and on this trade, and if that occurs, then it is what it is. I was just too late behind the charts, and it is what it is. Like, you cannot catch every single move, and if we do not see the market retrace, then I'm not upset about that. But if it does retrace, I'm ready to get that long entry in. Now, what I want you to see is if you pay attention to this low formation here, and we look at ES, you can see that ES formed its respective low at 941, whilst Nasdaq forms its low at 945. That is SMT on the lows right there. Isn't it beautiful to see those signatures taking place at exactly the time windows, or during the time windows and during which we anticipate them to take place? You tell me that is random. You tell me that this reaction to that daily BC is not algorithmic. You of course know already, if you have been paying attention to the Uncensored series, that there is absolutely an algorithm who is in control, or that is in control of price action. Now, what I will be monitoring is whether or not that retracement will take place, and if I will get that long entry. Ideally, I would like to see the market drop into this lower BC here. It would be like this here would be the perfect entry, in my opinion. So I'm going to see what it has to offer. My invalidation is below this down close candle here. Based on the reaction to this high right here, I will determine if I will go long based off that high or in that BC. All right, just a little bit more, please. It seems like I'm going to stop right in advance of it. We'll see. Patiently waiting. All right, that's my entry there. Perfect. Stop will be below this candle's low here. I want to see the market begin to expand towards the upside soon. This is what I'm anticipating. I'm just going to draw an arrow like this. I want you to understand that I'm anticipating the market to begin to show a willingness to spool towards the upside. That's my underlying analysis. That is what I'm waiting for. I'm anticipating big green candles to come. Let me just take this off. The moment that we displaced above this high, it was the CSD that we were looking for. Notice that the high just formed below this CB, so that is not ideal. But if we zoom into a lower time frame, you will see that the high still formed inside of a lower time frame CB. So that is something I want you to understand as well, is that the majority of the times when you do not see a bullish breaker, its respective high form inside of a time frame, or inside of a CB, I'm sorry, on the time frame that you're looking at price action at, you need to understand that on a lower time frame, you're likely seeing or going to see that high form inside of a CB. And that is how these markets are fractal. And that is what I want you to understand. All right, so news is coming right here. 1 second. Here we go. I anticipate the big green candles to come. Confident in my stop because this rejection of that daily BC is everything I need to know in order to confirm that we're likely going to expand towards the upside. Look, guys, when it's not clear yet if the market is going to deliver into one side direction when news drops, you wait for the news. But when you already see what's likely going to happen, because for example 930 already showed its hand, then you can anticipate the news to get utilized for the distribution phase. And that's what I want you guys to understand. This is of course a topic that you need to investigate first of all for your own. This is not something I advise the newcomers in my mentorship to immediately begin doing, because trading in advance of news can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, especially in advance of certain news events. But in this case, everything inside of this chart is telling to me, or everything is signaling to me, that we need to reprice towards the upside. And therefore, that is what I'm working with. And there's no ambiguity about that. I anticipate this news right here at 10 o'clock to get utilized for the distribution higher. Is it possible that they might want to reprice the lower once more trading into this BC? Yes. But as long as my invalidation does not get reached, I don't care. I don't care, guys. Because I understand that everything is aligned for higher prices next. Now, what's interesting to note is that ES already took out this high, the 955 high, whilst Nasdaq did not yet. The moment that Nasdaq does take out that high in ES as well, I anticipate the markets to really begin to spool towards the upside. So that's what I'm monitoring now. As a first drawing liquidity, this high here comes to mind. And the reason why that high specifically is because it is the high of 7 to 830. So let me just annotate that to be the drawing liquidity. Right there. And if we put the 90-minute cycles on. And one thing I want you to understand as well, guys, by the way, is that if we are in fact going to deliver this analysis, this is a perfect AMD fractal where we accumulate it right here, we manipulate towards the downside, and we then distribute towards the upside during their respective 90-minute cycles. AMD. That is why I'm anticipating those big green candles to come soon. So patiently waiting. Stop can be trailed at this stage. Market should not drop below that 1 minute BC. And let's see if Nasdaq will manage to catch up to ES. Pretty happy with the entry inside of the BC. Notice that we just tapped the BC and then rejected it. All right, let's see how they're going to utilize this. I don't want to see them displace below this BC. It's possible that they're dropping it lower once more below the 10 o'clock open. And I need to see that BC function as support on price. If that BC does not function as support on price, I know I need to get out. Here we have that 10 o'clock open right here. Pay attention to how we're going to deliver below it. As you can see, there's a bit of consolidation going on here, where there's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth delivery. The moment I see SMT taking place on the lows here, that is when that consolidation is likely going to end. Drop below the 10 o'clock open, offer smart money the opportunity to go long. So this is where high frequency trading algorithms are doing one thing, that's pooling, meaning they're just literally flooding the market with buy orders. They're filling their long positions in a discount of the current range since 10 o'clock. And therefore they understand that the market has to be repriced towards this level here, at least, and maybe even higher. Therefore, that is the overall analysis that I'm working with. Beautiful rejection of that 10 o'clock open. As you can see, we dropped below it. This down close candle at 10:03, important time, form that low and then begin to displace towards the upside. Now, what I want you to understand as well is that there's an SMT on the bodies here between Nasdaq and ES. If you investigate for yourself, you can see that Nasdaq created lower lows on the bodies, right here, lower bodies, whilst ES created higher lows on the bodies. And that's always a signature you want to be stalking as well if there's no SMT on the wicks. Pay attention to that down close candle that price is currently trading in. That should function as support on price. I'm going to pyramid in here and I'm going to trail my stop, because the price has to begin to expand towards the upside now. Big green candles incoming. I ignore this false SMT on the highs. I do not care about it. I anticipate that we are going to just run straight through it. Notice what I'm doing, by the way, with the overall risk to the position. Because I pyramided into the position, I was allowed or was forced to trail my stop loss. Why am I forced to trail my stop loss? Because the risk has to remain relatively equal through the position if the underlying analysis is not invalidated. If the underlying analysis would get invalidated and there would be signatures present that the analysis would be off, then we of course have to decrease risk, and we do so by going to break even. But if there's nothing wrong about the underlying analysis, what we will then look to do is we will look to pyramid into that position, because that will allow us to increase the potential profit between the range of our entry to our targets. And that is how you pyramid into positions, guys. When the underlying analysis remains correct and it remains valid, you look to pyramid. Pay attention to this rejection right here of this open right here, this long wick. This is a bullish rejection block. I do not want to see the market displace below that. They're really providing a lot of opportunities to get in here, to get market wrong. Notice how the wick tapped into that bullish rejection block, into that red line, and then immediately rejected it. That right there is a signature that I like to see to confirm that we're in fact going to continue this buy program. Notice how we initially had 3 contracts on, and we were able to pyramid to onto that, and now we have 5 contracts long Nasdaq. What follows after consolidation? Expansion. This is where the majority of you think, oh, it has to deliver now, it has to begin running. Can it please begin running? Guys, at this moment, yes, what I always do is the following. I literally just keep on saying to myself, it will deliver, it will deliver, it will deliver. Why? Because everything is already present for me that confirms to me that we're going to expand towards the upside. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to expand. If we are going to reject this level and then begin to show the signatures of bearish order for stepping in, okay, then I need to get out and I know my idea is off. But notice that we just have this CB that price is struggling with here. The moment that we displace above that, what do you think will happen? That CB will function as an inversion for value gap. Allow for some time for the market to basically go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth inside of imbalances on the left side of the curve inside of a market maker buy model. And that's one of the tips I want to give to you. Notice that the underlying analysis isn't based on this delivery here. It isn't based on how the market is chopping around here. No, the underlying analysis is based on a higher time frame analysis, which I showed to you. I went straight from the daily chart into the 1 minute chart, and I showed to you, okay, everything is aligned for this to be the low of the morning session. Therefore, I anticipate an expansion towards the upside to take place. Higher time frame key level, rejection like this, boom. All I need to know to confirm that buy program likely stepping in next. And that is what I want you to understand, guys. Like, don't overcomplicate it. I know that I just went from the daily chart all the way into the 1 minute chart, and you're probably like, what? How did he do that? Look, I already made my review for the day during the London session today. I outlined to you what levels I was monitoring, what ranges I was monitoring, and I know that when those ranges get met at the right times, 9:45, exactly 9:45, when those ranges get met at the right times, that to me is the signature that I'm looking for, that we are likely going to see the market change from that sell program into that buy program. We manipulate below these relative weak lows, 30-minute cycle lows, and we then begin to see the market show the signatures of bullish order flow stepping in. And there we're seeing those big green candles come in, and we see the market begin to run towards the upside. Now, what I'm going to monitor is the following. I'm going to monitor if Nasdaq and DS are going to move in tandem with one another. If one of the two is going to reach the objectives earlier than the other, then that's a warning sign to me to take a partial. And I, of course, have multiple screens that I'm monitoring, so I'm not going to switch steps for you because that would be too messy. But that is how I analyze, of course, and that is how I've taught you to look at intermarket relationship as well. At this stage, risk can be removed from the whole position. There's absolutely no reason for the market to begin to displace towards the downside now. Like, we have already shown a willingness to displace above this, how do you call this? In Dutch, we say hindernis. You're probably like, what? Hindernis? What does that mean? Roadblock, that's the word. The Dutch people are probably like, they're laughing their ass off right now, and they're like, why did he mention that? Yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes I still think in Dutch. I'm trying to perfect it even more. Pay attention to this high here. That high should function as support on price. Why? Because it's a high of a previous cycle, as you can see, from 8:30 to 10, and we displaced above that high with this PC. So if we utilize that high as support on price and we begin to see the market expand towards the upside, that's exactly what I'm looking for to confirm that we're likely going to begin to see very bullish order flow stepping in. Pay attention to the candle which is currently printing. If this candle expands above the previous candle like it's doing right now, I anticipate that we're going to see the market begin to rush, and we're going to see the market begin to what do you call it? Spool, so to say. So the macro ends in 2 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one contract off, or let's do two actually, to secure some profits right here in this area. Monitoring this candle. All right. That's a partial for me. Let me just put the executions on, and we're going to leave the remainder of the position running. Say a time-based partial, and because I see that ES is not displacing above this high right here, whilst NQ did, that's to me a sign, okay, be content with that and already take a part of the position off. Now, if it rolls over on me, that would be unfortunate, but the stop is already at a break even, so at this case, or at this stage, I don't really care anymore. Don't think about, oh, all the open profit that you could potentially lose out on. Yeah, so what? Who cares? If I'm freaking right with my analysis and the market does in fact begin to continue to expand towards the upside, who cares? Pay attention to this 1 minute BC here. This has to function as support on price. If the market displaces below that, that's the warning sign to get out. So the stop can be a bit higher right here. I want to see that CB that I've extended to the right function as an inversion to value gap on price. If the market displaces below that, that's the warning sign. Look how the bodies are consistently closing at this level. This is beautiful right there. If we're going to see the market now begin to run towards the upside, it's like, if that occurs, this is textbook market maker buy model delivery, and you should definitely investigate this. So let's see. I'm happy with the partial though, because if this would roll back on me, it would begin to chop around, I would be upset about the fact that I would not take a partial, even though I recognize that we are nearing, or we were nearing the end of the macro, and we saw a smaller SMT fractal playing out. And guys, don't think you can go broke by taking partials, because you absolutely can't. The move that was taken a partial on was already around, what was it? 60 points or so. That is more than enough, honestly, guys. Don't think you need to do more than that. With regards to the psychology series, by the way, I'm currently producing that, and I'm really enjoying the production of it, because it allows me to share some of the things I had to go through when I was coming up in this business. And what I want you to guys, this is the first time I'm not going to cut something. If I do cut it, then I'm going to be upset about that. But anyhow, what I want you to understand, guys, is that in this business, you need to go through a lot of pain. You need to go through a lot of experiences. You need to go through a lot of negative experiences in which everything just doesn't seem to click, in which it feels like, oh my God, this is all just too much, right? At that stage, yes, when you go through a phase like that, what you need to do is the following. You need to consistently keep on saying to yourself, it's going to freaking work no matter what. It's going to work one day. And as long as you keep on saying to that, or saying that to yourself, and you keep on believing that, and you don't say to yourself, oh, you know what, things have changed, or I'm not capable of doing it, or whatever, I'm just not built for this. The moment you notice that your mind is referring to that, to those type of words, to that type of self-talk, I want you to do the following. I want you to literally say, stop. Don't think this way, because what you're actually doing, let me just remove the arrow because it's bare annoying to me. What I want you to understand is that when you think that way, and when you have that type of self-talk, this is actually interesting. We're seeing ES create a new low for this 90-minute cycle, where there's a bigger SMT right here unfolding right now. So pay attention to this CB right here and the direction to that. But what you're doing then is you're actually causing yourself to not get it. If you, however, would transfer that energy into the following, and you would say to yourself, okay, I am capable of doing it. I will be able to do it one day. I don't care how much work it will take. I don't care how much time it will take. I know that one day I will arrive. When you think about it that way, from that perspective, from that lens, what do you think the logical outcome over time will be as long as you keep on putting in the work? You can already guess what the logical outcome is. You already know it. You just need to make the conscious decision to begin changing. And as long, pay attention to this candle right here. This is beautiful, man. Purge this short-term low which formed inside of this BC. Set up that large SMT. So let's see if they're going to run it now. ES made that lower low for that 10 o'clock cycle, whilst NQ did not. So if we're going to see continuation higher taking place, it would have to occur from this area. If NQ now begins to roll over, I know things get messy and I will walk away. But anyhow, with regards to what I was talking about, what I want you guys to understand is the following. The moment you make the conscious decision to change and you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to put in the freaking work. I don't care how hard it will get. I don't care how many hours I will have to spend. I don't care how many times I need to fall flat on my face. As long as you keep on saying to yourself that you will arrive one day, that's everything you need to do. But here comes the thing. The majority of you, you just, you are watching me right now and you've been watching me for what is it? Like about 25 minutes now, 30 minutes. And you're probably like, oh, this is so boring to watch. Why isn't he talking more? Why aren't there many flashy things on his chart? Why isn't he showing all of the indicators that he uses? Oh, why isn't he telling me where to buy or sell? Blah, blah, blah. Guys, what I'm doing is freaking simple behind the charts. Pay attention to very specific ranges, very specific price cycles, very specific time cycles, and operate within them. That is trading. That right there is algorithmic trading. That is all I do. And it's not flashy. It's freaking boring. That's why I also sound like, as if I've seen this movie multiple times in the past. And that is how it will feel for you. And when you get to that stage, you know you have arrived. If you think that trading has to be, oh, it's so exciting. Oh, look, I can press so many buttons and this and that. And oh, it's all flashy and I have these flashy indicators doing this or that. Okay, I know I have the course, of the 90-minute cycles, but that's just personal preference. But back to topic, it's all at the end of the day about you putting in the work and repeating the same freaking things over and over again. And just being content with enough. Not aiming for more, not aiming for home runs. No, just being content with enough. And over time, when you keep on doing that, the logical outcome will be that you will achieve all your goals and you will go way beyond everything that you even thought to reach in the first place. When you come to that stage where it's just, okay, I know what I'm looking for. I know when I'm looking for it. I know exactly how it should deliver and in what sequence it should deliver, because what you need to understand, what I'm teaching you is all based around algorithmic sequences, meaning if this, then that. But if this occurs, then that idea is invalidated. Everything has to occur in order. If there's no order behind the overall process, the process that you think you're adhering to, the process that you're utilizing isn't algorithmic. But the moment it becomes objective, the moment you know exactly when you will be doing certain things and when you will be looking for those certain things, that is when the tremendous growth will take place. So back to the price section. What we see is that ES is already this way towards the upside, whilst NQ is not. I'm anticipating NQ to also catch up to ES. So let's see how they will deliver right here. All right, ES just took out this high, whilst NQ did not. I need to see NQ catch up to ES soon. If NQ rolls over now, things are going to get very freaking messy, and that is something we don't want to be in. If that occurs, I need to get out. I'm actually going to look to take a partial if ES rejects this high right there. I need to see the market begin to run soon. If it doesn't begin to run soon, I know I need to take a partial again. And that is trade management, guys. When you recognize signatures that you're not a fan of or that you don't like to see, it's a better word to describe it, it's never a bad idea to take a partial, because a partial always pays. In the beginning of your journey, it's better to basically begin taking partials at the moments that you feel like, okay, something feels off right here. And then log the outcome, then log what occurs after that. If you hold on to a position that you know you shouldn't hold on to because there's something in the underlying pinnings of the marketplace that has changed for your feeling, then you know it's time for you to adjust your overall analysis. When you don't do that, and when you think, oh, I should just, just stay at it, I'm going to take 2 contracts off right here. Beautiful. Random. Good old Zuzi does it again. And that right there is the position done. I don't know why, but trading few lagged. Getting filled into my short, that's a bit weird, but that's the job done. With that, this actually comes to an end. I hope that you found it insightful, and I look forward to catching up with you in the next one. Be safe.